Welcome back to another episode of our SEM web series. My name is Tiger.
Hey, and I'm Zach, and we both serve as SEM managers at Modernize Quinn Street. So basically, what you're looking to do here is, I mean, as an advertiser, what services you offer, and what you're trying to do is basically find search queries or what's referred to as keywords that you believe potential homeowners might be searching on. So if you're a roofing contractor, you're going to be looking for queries that are related to roofing. If you're a bathroom remodeling contractor, you're going to be looking for keywords that are related to bathroom remodeling. And ideally, when you're setting up your campaigns, you're only creating campaigns around keywords that are directly relevant to the services you offer.
Negative keywords are kind of just what they sound like. They're keywords that you don't want to bid on. They're super important for making sure you're showing up for the right audiences. Just as an example, right? There's a big difference between, somebody looking for, help with their windows that they need replaced in their house and someone looking for Windows support. And you could spend a lot of money, helping someone, fix their Windows XP from, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. So making sure that you're watching what's coming through and making sure it's relevant to your business and what you sell is going to be really important.
Yep, and there are tools that you can use to see what people are searching on to get an idea of what is actually relevant to your business and what potentially might help you determine what kind of keywords that you should be negative matching in your campaigns.
Yeah, a good way to figure this out is to think about every search that comes through on Google as a question that someone's asking Google, and your job is to fill in the answer, fill in the blank for them. And then when you start thinking about search queries as questions, it's a little bit easier to figure out, hey, where are they in the customer journey? Because what people search when they're just starting out trying to plan a project is going to be different from when they've done their research. The difference is someone kind of maybe searching for just how much stuff costs generally, like how much do I need a budget, right? Questions like that versus people looking for, really specific types of windows or types of shingles for their new roof. When someone's a little bit deeper like that and they know the lingo, you can tell that they're further along in the process.
Yeah, I mean that the only thing that I would add to that is one way you can kind of help hone in on that intent is with different match types that are offered as you set up your keywords. So, as Tiger is saying, if you have potential homeowners, consumers that are really knowledgeable about what they're looking for, they have very specific queries. You can potentially set up your keywords to just the exact match keywords. So you're just looking for traffic that is very specific to people looking for bathroom remodels in Austin, Texas. On the other hand, if you're kind of trying to reach a broader audience, you're not quite sure about the intent, you want to have a broader reach, you could potentially use broad match or phrase match, which will help you kind of capture a wider net of traffic. And then from there, you can potentially narrow it down as you move forward and have more data. So there are a couple things to consider when you're trying to figure out what keywords to include. On one hand, there are going to be certain keywords that are very competitive in the environment. There are going to be lots of advertisers bidding on them, and there are going to be higher costs associated with those keywords. And so one thing as you're creating your keywords that you need to be aware of is, how valuable are those conversions from a specific keyword, and are you willing to potentially pay the price that's required to, kind of play in those search query auctions for those keywords. On top of that, there are tools within Google, within Bing, where you can essentially go in and enter the website of your company, or you can take, a specific query and enter that, and these trading platform systems will kind of spit back a list of keywords or potential keyword options that might be relevant to what you offer and that you might want to include in your campaigns as well.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add there to what Zach mentioned is if you're having trouble with doing this kind of research on what to get started with, start with a simple base set of keywords and watch what people are searching as it comes in and see what's relevant, what's not, and see what people convert on, what makes people fill out forms. And that in itself is great data.
So I guess one way to look at this is that every time someone comes in and does a search, enters a search query on Google, on Bing, wherever it might be, what's basically taking place at that point is an instantaneous auction on the back end. So, someone comes in, searches roofing contractors. Google is basically, with its algorithm, taking that, looking at all the potential advertisers that are in that space, and then showing ads based on the advertisers in that space, and then also how much those advertisers are willing to spend for that particular query. And so when you kind of think about what is keyword bidding, essentially it's how much are you willing to pay for a certain query to show up in that space. And again, there are going to be certain instances where it's a very competitive query, and there are a lot of advertisers trying to show in that space, and so the value of that search query is going to go up. There's going to be other instances where maybe you have a very niche market, or a longer tail query where there's less competition, and so it's kind of easier to show up in that auction. And so as you're kind of determining that, and you start to gather some data, you're able to see where you should set those keyword bids to figure out if you can actually show up in those particular auctions. And then obviously, again, you're going to all the time, you're going to want to take into account how much is a conversion worth to you from that particular query, to help you determine how much you're willing to pay for someone to click on your search query ad up front.
When it comes to getting started, you've used Google before. You've done searches before. Everybody does. So you can get started by thinking about how you yourself, try to ask questions out in the world and what you would maybe even search. It's a good place to get started, and think through how your ads, with those keywords you selected, answer those questions, and what that user experience is like from beginning of search query to them hitting your landing page and potentially converting. Are you kind of keeping your messaging in line with what they searched with from the beginning? If so, you're in a good spot. So if you're starting there and you're keeping the user in mind from the get-go, from the very beginning when you're doing your keyword research, you can be in a good place.
Yeah, that's great. I think the only thing that I would add is to just be willing to remain flexible. There's going to be instances where you think you know what people are searching for, and they're going to be looking for something completely different, or the way that they input that query is going to be completely different. And then again, there are constantly going to be additional advertisers entering the space. So, one week you may be generating traffic from a certain search query. The next week, if 4 new advertisers enter the space, you may no longer be showing up in that auction for that query. So just important to remember that you need to remain flexible. You need to make adjustments, and just go in with the understanding that it's an ever-changing landscape, and it's important to just be ready to react to that as you move forward. If you have any additional questions or are interested in any additional resources, head to modernize.com/pros.